Plant AG is described as a foliar nutritional supplement to enhance crop yields. It's further described as something unique. It's a combination, got a little NPK, a little sulfur, and then the micronutrients. The micronutrients are chelated / complexed, and if you don't know what that's talking about, we'll get into it in a minute. And they include boron and copper and cobalt and iron and manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. And then the chelating agents are these hydrolyzed proteins. That's the organic part that's not on the label. That's the part that the competition can't learn about because it's not on the label. And of course, it's this unique combination of mineral and organic that makes the product effective. Real quick, let me show you some of the benefits. And you've seen in the farm show, and you'll have a chance at 5 o'clock to go on a tour and see the plots. But AG produces better quality, increased stress resistance, higher solids, more extractable sugar in sugar beets and sugar cane, and of course an increase in the yields. And all of this leads to increased profits. So if the farmer doesn't make more money, then what good is it? Okay, let's talk a little bit about the importance of complete nutrition. I'm sure most of you understand the basics of human nutrition, but I don't know how many of you understand the basics of plant nutrition. So let me give you a quick review. This is Plant Nutrition 101. Plants need 16 essential elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. We don't worry about those because they get them out of the air and out of the water. They go in through the leaf and up through the water. So that's automatic. Then the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, that's normally what we use as fertilizers. And people are familiar with those, and we use those in large quantities. But what about the others that are often ignored? The calcium and the magnesium and the sulfur are normally there to balance the soil pH. And if you have a neutral pH, those elements are usually there and available. But if the pH is too high or too low, then the others, the micronutrients, are normally out of range. They're not available. And even if they are in the soil, if this pH is too high or too low or too dry or too wet or too something, they're not available. So it's the micronutrients that these products concentrate on. Yeah, there's a little NPK, but it's primarily the micronutrients. Here's another concept. All too often we think, I'll fix that nutritional problem. My plants aren't growing well, I'll push some more nitrogen. I'll fertilize them a little more. I have university studies where they add some nitrogen to our trials. But if the limiting factor is iron, and this is an old German Liebig's concept, that if the limiting factor is iron, the real question is how much nitrogen do you have to add to make up for the lack of iron? Well, that's a stupid question, isn't it? You have to add iron. Fix that iron. You got to find the limiting factor. If it's iron, add iron. If it's zinc, add zinc. How do we do that? We do soil analysis. But even if the soil says there's enough there, if the pH is wrong, as we've mentioned, too hot, too dry, too high pH, too low pH, those elements are there in the soil, but they're not available. Okay. So really what we want is a balanced, complete nutrition. And it's the shortest supply that we've got to pay attention to. And if we don't want to do soil analysis or tissue analysis, then we use a shotgun. And that's what AG is. AG is a little NPK and a lot of micronutrients. It's a shotgun. If all you need is iron, then that's what you ought to use. If you don't know what you need, then that's where we recommend AG. Let's talk a little bit about the advantage of putting something on the leaf, which we call a foliar application, versus soil applications, which is the tradition. You can't put enough nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium through the leaf. It's got to go in the soil. But when you put the micronutrients in the soil, as we mentioned, they become tied up. They're lost. So first of all, they're slow acting because they have to be attacked by the microbes, broken down, and released to the plant. The most popular fertilizer, in my opinion, is urea. We use a lot of urea on crops because it's cheap. And it's only about 46 to 48% nitrogen. And you know that plants don't use urea, they need the nitrogen. How do they get the nitrogen? It's got to be broken down. Microbes help break it down and release the nitrogen. Same with phosphate, potassium, whatever. So if you don't have the microbes working on it to break it down, it's slow to become available. So it's slow acting. And it's less efficient because it goes in the soil where a lot of it is lost due to leaching or volatilization. Okay, so let's look now at putting a fertilizer right on the leaf. Those are more expensive, we admit that, but they're more efficient and they act quicker. They're taken up within a few hours. There's no tie-up in the soil because you don't put them on the soil. Okay, they're between 3 and 100 times more effective. And those numbers range depending on the conditions and the product and the brand and all of that. But there's no loss to leaching. Leaching means that the water takes it below the root zone, takes it too deep. Well, if it's going on the leaf, it can't be lost to leaching. Okay, NutriPlant AG has one advantage over the other foliars. It activates the plant metabolism. What do we mean by that? You know, it's easy to call it that. What we mean is university data showing that when you put AG on the leaf, photosynthesis increases. That's the metabolism we're talking about. I've got some data that's not university data, it's my own, that shows when you put AG on the leaf of the plant, the roots are taking more up out of the soil. People ask me all the time, how can this little bit of product put on the leaf get such a yield increase? Well, it's part of what you're putting on the leaf, and the rest is coming out of the soil from the stimulation of the uptake. So it's stimulating the photosynthesis and also stimulating uptake of water and other nutrients in the soil. So foliar applications are costly, but more efficient, more effective. And this is, if you will, the newer way to go with things. And a lot of crops you can't afford foliar applications, they're just too expensive. Okay, so when are foliar applications needed? When the soil or climate conditions are less than ideal. You know, often I'll ask for show of hands, when was the last time you had a perfect year? I never had anyone say, I had a perfect year. I'd have them tell me, well, it's a year of twos. What do you mean year of twos? It's too wet or too dry or too hot or all of the above in the same year. And someone was talking to me, well, in our area it was too wet first and then it was too dry and now we're back to too wet. Well, that's when foliar applications make most sense. When the soil and the climate are giving you fits. Also during certain rapid stages of growth, flowering, fruit set, pod set. These are stages when the plants are taken up and they're trying to get out of the soil more than what they're capable of getting. If you put some on the leaf, it's kind of like intravenous feeding. Yeah, it still needs to get all it can out of the soil, but you beef that up with a foliar application. Okay, let's look at the products available for foliar applications. One of the first ones that they tried was salt solutions. I mean iron sulfate, zinc sulfate, inexpensive salts. What happens when you put salt on a plant? It shocks it. It sends it into shock. And often they'll say, well, this is cosmetic. It'll grow out of it. Well, it does. But meanwhile, it shut your plant down and put it into shock for a while, whether it's a few hours or a few days. And sometimes it'll burn the edges of the leaf. So, and that's why guys my age often say, foliar applications don't work. We tried them. Well, they tried the salts, and they're ineffective. They work, they don't work, they burn. So the other alternative, they go to EDTA-type chelates. Those have been around a long time. They're called fritted trace elements, chelates, chelates, sequestrines. Those are big molecules, and they work really well in the soil. So when we moved to foliar applications, it was a natural, okay, I'm going to put iron on the leaf now. I'll use that form that we invented for the soil. I'll use EDTA. Well, that's a huge molecule. It works great in the soil, but it's too big to really enter the leaf very fast. It's slow getting in, and I'll show you more about that. So our claim to fame is these natural chelates, complexing agents, natural organic minerals that we put in AG in all of our products that are small molecular weight, and they're not foreign, they're not synthetic. They go right into the plant, and the plant can actually use them. So we'll talk more about that. First though, how do we form a chelate or a complex? If you take the metal, that's the iron, the copper, the zinc, and you surround it with 1, 2, 3 ligands or organic molecules, 3 different amino acids, a glycine and a leucine, whatever. That, if it forms straight chains, then that's called a complex. If it forms a ring structure, for those of you who remember some basic chemistry, then we call that a chelate. What's the difference between a chelate and a complex? True metals form chelates. Boron and potassium, which are not true metals, form complexes. What does it matter? In either case, you're taking this mineral that you want to protect, surrounding it with organic matter so that it doesn't get tied up and messed up with do chemical reactions with other elements. So it's kind of like President Bush. If we surround him with CIA, he's protected, but he functions. Is that like a chelate or a complex? Well, CIA, FBI, see what we're saying? We're protecting what's valuable with, well, I guess what I'm saying is that CIA and FBI are organic molecules. No, they of course they're organic. Okay, But you see my analogy? It's just for those of you who, so you can understand chelation, because it's not well understood. Animal nutritionists, you know chelation for animal nutrition. Nurses, doctors know human nutrition. If you take up minerals and vitamins and they're not in bioavailable form, you're wasting your money. You know that. Bioavailable means what? Chelated or complex. So that's the term we use in agriculture, chelation, complexation. Okay, that's probably more than you need to know. What are our chelating, complexing agents that we use? Amino acids, all 16 essentials, and over 100 naturally occurring carboxylic acids, plus carbohydrates, and the whole point being that they be small molecular weight. EDTA is a huge molecule. These are very small molecules. So 100% of AG is available to the plant. 100% can go in and be used by the plant. Where, urea, for example, is only 40% used. And even 40% or 50% of the 40% that's nitrogen is lost. So you're only about a quarter efficient there. It's cheaper, but you lose all but 1/4 of it. So this is a little comparison. Looking at the synthetic salts, looking at the EDTA types. So the first category is the salts, the second is EDTA type, man-made synthetics, and then the natural chelates are what we're using in AG, or in all of our products. Salts can be phytotoxic, we talked about that. EDTA is not phytotoxic hardly at all, and ours are only phytotoxic at the really high rates. Salts are biodegradable, the EDTA is not. The water we're drinking is full of EDTA and similar type molecules. Doesn't seem to hurt us, but it never breaks down. It just accumulates and accumulates because it's not biodegradable. Okay, so, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying that one's not biodegradable, one's not. And of course, ours is readily biodegradable inside the plant and in the soil. Salts, they're variable absorption rates. They're low efficiency. So, they're inexpensive. That's why we use them. Synthetic EDTA types are more costly. And the most costly, I'll be honest with you, is the Foliar NutriPlant AG. Even though that's the most expensive of our product line, it's very effective when you look at what you get for the bang for your buck. It's still at the retail prices are down around $7 per application per acre. So it's not prohibitive. We're just saying, I wouldn't recommend it on wheat unless you're growing some good quality wheat and getting a good price. But we're acknowledging that the alternative products are cheaper, but they're less effective. Okay. And then, of course, you get this added benefit by putting the right kind of organic mineral on the leaf. You get a stimulation of the metabolism, meaning the photosynthesis is increasing. Okay, this represents the cross-section of, it's the surface of a leaf, and you can see those little round donuts, which are the stomata. Those are the pores, the openings. And the gas exchange, the water goes in and out of that. And the plant uses those to control the water. So when it's lacking in water, what does it do? Shuts down the holes. So the stomata are only open if you got plenty of water in the soil and it's not too hot or not too windy and you got sunshine. And stomata on the top of the leaves, but mostly on the bottom of the leaves. So when you spray something on those leaves and you're expecting it to go in through the stomata, that's a losing battle. It happens. Salts can go in through there, EDTA type can go in through there, but our products can go through the stomata too, but they don't have to. They can go right through the leaf surface area. So larger molecules are slow, they're inefficient. So that's what is different about our product. It penetrates right through the leaf, just like glyphosate or Roundup. It doesn't have to go through the stomata. It penetrates through that leaf and goes right in. So these natural amino and carboxylic acids go through the stomata and through the leaf epidermis.